So the most viewed topics on my channel are about depression, and loneliness, and boundaries. To take it to a very simple level, to go back to this fundamental level, if you're thirsty, have a drink of water. If you're hungry, have something to eat. If you're lonely, you need people in your life. Then find ways to attract your tribe or go to others who share similar interests and values and beliefs as you. The difference between being alone and lonely. You can be alone and be quite content and quite happy in your own company. You already know that. Versus being alone and just not being able to stand being with yourself and being alone and not being able to cope with that empty space around you and not knowing how to fill it up. We need community. And to not have that connection, I think, is one of the most painful things on earth, to not have connection. And here's the funny thing is that sometimes we may say, well, we crave a relationship, and then we get one, and or we crave having community and friends and support around us, and then when that starts to come into our life, we push it away and we shut it down. Because we may want that, but we don't know how to deal with that. Because perhaps we have some trauma or some pain around that. Like, well, I want this, but even if it comes in, I don't know how to deal with it. So if you are in that space and you're finding that that's happening for you, I invite you to not jump to that knee-jerk reaction of pushing it away, but to look at that, kind of step outside of it and feel what is going on. Where do you feel the feelings in your body? Do you feel unable to speak? Do you feel unable to accept maybe that love and that friendship coming in? What is this bringing up? And to start to unravel that so that you can move through it and so that you can finally get that support that you've been wanting and needing and craving. You know, we go through seasons in our lives. Seasons we are so busy that we barely have time to breathe and to just sit down and relax because we have so many demands and everyone needs our attention and needs us for something. And then we may have other seasons where there is just so much empty space and so much time and no one is needing us and no one is texting us and calling us constantly. Or you may find that the majority of your life has been one way or the other. So here's an interesting thing I've found about loneliness in my own journey is that anytime that I catch myself in a state where I'm like, I just feel lonely, if I was to ask myself in that moment, if I could step outside of myself and look at myself and say, hey, Renee, what are you feeling? Where are you disconnected to yourself? Because when you are in a state of loneliness, you are disconnected from your source. You are disconnected from your kind of like your inner light or your essence. But I want to add one caveat to that. That does not mean that you should be able to exist as an island and hell, you don't need anyone, because we came to this life interdependent. We did not come here to do it all alone. If we were meant to do it alone, we would not be seeking out close, intimate bonds with one other person. We were meant to have relationships with others of all different kinds. So I'm not saying that you should be so self-sufficient and so independent and autonomous that you don't need anyone. Damn, I wish that was the case sometimes, but it's not. And when we're lonely, you know, not only can you ask yourself, where is there a disconnect? But also go a little further and ask yourself, what is that disconnect about? Do you find it hard to trust others? Do you find it hard to open up? Have you been through some experiences where you have decided and vowed to never trust anyone again? If you've been through a lot of pain and you've been through a lot of heartache and a lot of trauma, it can be easy to decide, no, I'm done, that's it, I give up. I'm never opening myself up to anyone again. But at the same time, consider that that alternative is that more or less painful than the risk it may take to go into trust again. And only you can decide that. and you can take whatever time you need to heal. And you can trust and open yourself up as much as you are able to do at any given time. The last thing I want to say is learning to make friends with yourself is a powerhouse, or a superpower rather. It is a tremendous thing you can kind of turn on, so that if everything in your exterior life is quiet, you know that by holding a certain perspective, you know that you can enjoy your company with yourself, that you enjoy who you are, you appreciate who you are, and you can do nice things for yourself. And when we get into a space where we're lonely, often what has happened is we have lost that perspective. And instead of appreciating ourselves and nurturing ourselves, we kind of go into this place of seeing everything as a lack. You are lacking, everything around you and in your life is lacking, and it's painful. So see if you're able to shift your perspective and say, well, I like myself. I like my own company. I like cooking myself a nice meal and watching a movie, maybe having a cup of tea, whatever it is that you like to do. Maybe taking your dog out for a walk, watching the stars, whatever it is that nurtures you. When you're able to go into that space of saying, I'm okay, and I don't need to run to my nearest escape route to deal with the pain, because by shifting my perspective, nurturing and loving myself, I am able to find that peace. And then you're able to reconnect with your source. So let any feelings of loneliness be a compass for you. Let it be a tool guiding you along the path. Investigate it and let it show you, demonstrate to you what it is that you need, what is out of balance in your life. And then you can take the next steps that you need to take. All right? Thank you so much, my friends, for joining me on this journey. I so appreciate you, and I'll catch you next time.